In the peaceful suburbs of Idaho, a shocking and disturbing tale unfolded that gripped the nation and sent shivers down the spines of everyone who followed it. This is the story of a man who discovered that the love of his life was capable of unspeakable horrors. This is the tale of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, a saga of doomsday beliefs, mysterious deaths, and a husband's heartbreaking realization that his wife was a murderer. The perfect couple? Lori Vallow seemed to have it all. She was a former beauty queen, admired for her striking looks and charm. Married to Charles Vallow, Lori was often seen as the perfect wife and mother. Friends and family described her as loving and devoted, always putting her children first. However, beneath this facade, a dark transformation was taking place. Charles Vallow began noticing unsettling changes in Lori's behavior. She became deeply involved in the teachings of a man named Chad Daybell, an author of doomsday novels who claimed to have visions of the end times. Lori's obsession with Chad's end-time beliefs deepened, leading her down a path that eventually tore her family apart. Initially, Charles dismissed Lori's strange behavior as a passing phase. He thought maybe it was just a midlife crisis, or that she was going through a rough patch. But Lori's behavior only got more extreme. She began to distance herself from friends and family, isolating herself with her new beliefs. She started talking about dark spirits and zombies, claiming that certain people, including her own children, had been possessed by evil forces. These ideas were completely out of character for the Lori everyone knew and loved. Charles was scared for his wife, but more importantly, he was scared for their children. He knew he had to protect Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow from whatever madness had taken hold of Lori. He tried to get Lori to seek professional help, but she refused. She was convinced that her beliefs were real, and that anyone who opposed her was working against God's plan. This set the stage for the tragic events that were about to unfold. The strange new beliefs. Lori's newfound beliefs were extreme and increasingly bizarre. She became convinced that she and Chad Daybell were chosen by God to prepare for the second coming of Christ. They believed they were part of the 144,000 faithful who would survive the apocalypse and lead humanity into a new era. Lori's obsession with these ideas alienated her from her family and friends, who were alarmed by her radical transformation. Chad Daybell fueled Lori's delusions. He was a self-proclaimed prophet who had written several doomsday novels. His books, which mixed Mormon beliefs with apocalyptic themes, captivated Lori. She saw Chad as a spiritual guide and mentor, someone who could help her fulfill her divine mission. Together, they formed a dangerous alliance, each feeding off the other's delusions. Lori began to see herself as a reborn being with a divine purpose. She believed she had lived many lives and that she was destined to play a crucial role in the end times. Her conversations were filled with talk of dark spirits and the need to purge evil from the world. She even started labeling people as dark or light based on her perceived spiritual status. Charles Vallow was at his wit's end. He couldn't believe the woman he married had transformed into someone he no longer recognized. He feared for the safety of their children and knew he had to act before it was too late. Charles tried to get Lori to see a therapist, but she refused. She was convinced that her beliefs were real and that anyone who opposed her was working against God's plan. The first death. On July 11, 2019, tragedy struck. Charles Vallow was shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, who claimed it was in self-defense. According to Alex, Charles had come to their home in Chandler, Arizona, and threatened Lori and the children. However, the circumstances surrounding Charles's death were suspicious. Lori's reaction was strangely calm, and she quickly moved to collect Charles's life insurance money, only to discover he had changed the beneficiary to his sister. Charles's death was the first in a series of mysterious events that would eventually lead to a nationwide search for Lori's missing children and uncover a web of deception and murder. The doomsday couple. After Charles's death, Lori wasted no time in pursuing a relationship with Chad Daybell. Chad, a self-proclaimed prophet, had convinced Lori that they were meant to be together and that their union was divinely ordained. Chad was married to Tammy Daybell, but that didn't stop him from planning a future with Lori. In October 2019, Tammy Daybell died under mysterious circumstances. Initially ruled as natural causes, her death was later reclassified as suspicious after investigators exhumed her body and found evidence of foul play. Just 2 weeks after Tammy's death, Chad and Lori were married in Hawaii, raising further suspicions about their involvement in Tammy's demise. The disappearance of Tylee and JJ. As Lori and Chad continued their apocalyptic preparations, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow vanished. Family members grew increasingly concerned, but Lori insisted the children were safe and living with friends. When asked by authorities, she provided conflicting stories and failed to produce the children. The search for Tylee and JJ became a national obsession. Authorities discovered that the children had not been seen since September 2019. Investigators uncovered a disturbing pattern of deception, lies, and manipulation. Lori and Chad's doomsday beliefs seemed to have consumed them entirely, leading them to commit heinous acts in the name of their twisted faith. In June 2020, after months of searching and public appeals for information, investigators made a grim discovery. The remains of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow were found buried on Chad Daybell's property in Rexburg, Idaho. The nation was horrified as the details emerged. The children had been brutally murdered and concealed in shallow graves. The discovery shattered any remaining illusions about Lori and Chad. They were arrested and charged with multiple counts, including conspiracy to commit murder and first-degree murder. The evidence against them was overwhelming, and their doomsday beliefs were laid bare for the world to see. A husband's heartbreak. Amidst the horror and shock, one voice stood out, that of Kay Woodcock, Charles Vallow's sister and JJ's grandmother. She had been sounding the alarm for months, desperate to find her grandchildren and hold Lori accountable. Kay's love for JJ and Tylee was evident in every tearful plea she made to the public and the authorities. Charles Vallow's heartbreaking realization that his wife had become a monster was a stark reminder of how deeply Lori's beliefs had corrupted her. He had tried to protect his family, but in the end, he became one of Lori's many victims. Charles's family was devastated. They had lost a beloved brother, and now they had to grapple with the horrific deaths of Tylee and JJ. The betrayal they felt was profound. Lori, once seen as a loving wife and mother, had turned into someone capable of unspeakable horrors. The pain of losing their loved ones was compounded by the knowledge that Lori and Chad's twisted beliefs had driven them to commit such heinous acts. The aftermath. Despite the overwhelming evidence against Lori and Chad, the legal process was slow and grueling. The case attracted widespread media attention, with every new development being closely followed by people around the world. Lori and Chad maintained their innocence, but the evidence painted a damning picture. Their doomsday beliefs, which had initially seemed harmless, had led to a series of tragic and horrific events. The trial was a long and emotional ordeal for the families involved. Kay and Larry Woodcock were present for every hearing, seeking justice for their beloved grandson. They listened to the harrowing details of how Lori and Chad had manipulated and deceived everyone around them. The evidence included phone records, text messages, and testimonies from former friends and associates who had seen firsthand the couple's descent into madness. The trial of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell captivated the nation. The courtroom was filled with shocking revelations about their twisted beliefs and the lengths they went to in order to fulfill their delusions. Prosecutors presented evidence of their involvement in the deaths of Charles Vallow, Tammy Daybell, and the children, painting a picture of two people who had lost all touch with reality. In May 2023, Lori Vallow was found guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and other charges related to the deaths of her children and her husband. Chad Daybell's trial is still pending, but he faces similar charges and is likely to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Lessons learned. The Vallow-Daybell case serves as a reminder of the dangers of extreme beliefs and the importance of mental health intervention. Lori's descent into madness and her ability to manipulate those around her underscore the need for vigilance and awareness when it comes to recognizing the signs of dangerous behavior. For Charles Vallow and his family, the tragic events have left a lasting scar. They continue to mourn the loss of Tylee and JJ, but they are determined to honor their memories by advocating for greater awareness and support for those affected by mental illness and radical beliefs. It's a stark reminder to be aware of the warning signs of mental health issues and seek help when necessary.